Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the continuation of our Life is Strange franchise tier list. Um, in our, as always, JR here, and last time we finished off the last couple episodes of well last well we finished off Life is Strange Double Exposure, so all the games are done. The last episode ended up being on B tier. So we got what was it? Chapter 1 here, Chapter 2 here, then 3, 4, and 5. So unfortunately, taking out the entire Chloe argument out of the entire Chloe situation out of the equation, the main plot itself of the game, what you were left with, unfortunately started trending downwards. Unfortunately. But hey, as you can see from this trailer, I mean trailer, from this tier list so far, Double Exposure could have been a lot worse. But yet again, uh, Hanatel's performance, coming back as Max, and everyone else's overall performance for all the new characters and everything in the game. They all did a great job. So definitely did not feel like anyone was like phoning anything in. So so that is definitely a good thing. But now this leaves us with the home stretch of the Life is Strange franchise as far as individual things are, like episodes and chapters and all that stuff. As far as the individual segmented pieces are concerned, we're gonna be starting to wrap this part of the tier list up with the Life is Strange comic books here on the bottom. And like I explained, again, like I explained, how we're gonna handle this part is the original um, comic run uh, went up to totaled 6 books when when all the issues were all collected and it was all said and done. It was all compiled into 6 books. So for the purposes of this tier list, we're going to separate each book and treat it like it was its own like episode or chapter of a game, if it were a game. So and it also works out really well too, because the comics were written pretty much with the intention of four issues making up like one whole piece of the story. So by the end of the fourth issue of every book, it pretty much segues into like a cliffhanger or whatnot to lead into like the next part of the story. So it doesn't feel like this on running like thing where issue to issue feels like they just picked like an arbitrary uh point to just end something. It's like no, these were written and constructed in a way where every four issues feels like the end of like a significant point of the story pretty much. And then you know the next book would pick it up from there, and it feels like the continuation and the beginning of another part. So so really like how they wrote it that way. And um, this time we actually have a trailer to go along because these books were done. These books were published by Titan Comics, and Titan Comics actually put out a trailer for the comic series for the first issue when it was coming out. So, oh, and another reason why I saved the comics for last is because the comics started coming out in November of 2018. So this was right in the middle. Let me see. Where's Life is Strange 2? Life is Strange 2. When did the first episode of Life is Strange 2 come out? September. Okay. So pretty much we have, what was it, 2 months, about 2 months later, the first issue of the comic series came out. And then the comic series ran until March 9th of 2022. So this was a definitely a big thing that Square Enix commissioned being done in the aftermath of obviously before the storm would have already finished and wrapped up and everything by that point. And because Life is Strange 2 was not continuing Max's story in any way. And it was completely new characters with Sean and Daniel and whatnot. Square Enix was like, obviously Max and Chloe are very popular, clearly. Because if they weren't popular, then Square Enix wouldn't have bothered having Before the Storm made, and then eventually, obviously, having a Double Exposure made eventually too. So clearly they're popular. So in the holdover since Life is Strange 2 was being made and was coming out, and after that, True Colors was going to be a thing, was being made and stuff, and then would eventually come out, and then the comic would wrap itself up the around the following year of after Double Exposure after True Colors came out, because True Colors came out in 2021. So Square Enix definitely wanted more stuff in the meantime of the games coming out. And with that, we will play the trailer here, uh, which to preface the trailer before I play it, uh, um, all that you see in the trailer is going to be the setup for the first issue of the comic series. It's not. It's not the. I believe it is probably the full like images from throughout the first issue, but there is like way bigger things that happen afterwards. So which we'll get into after the trailer, but yeah. So let me play the trailer here, so that way I could go. So I'll be I'll be back right after, so we can explain, so we can go into detail on what the whole comic, well not well for a majority of this first uh, storyline is.
Hold my hands down, silent symmetry. Picture frames of boxing days in sunlight. Sit yourself down, drink your lemonade. Need a sweeter medicine that tastes right. Under the hideout, and again and again and again, you walk on silver screens, selling magazines. I try to lie down, but I fall and I fall and I fall out of your dreams. Close your eyes again, look for sympathy.
Okay, so there you go. And as you saw in the trailer, the comic is written by Emma Vicelli and main illustrations done by Claudia Leonardi. So uh, first off, they right out the gate, they do amazing, great writing and great artwork for the comic. So right out the gate. Um, so how good the writing is, we will see. And just like how they said, um, this is doing this. The comic also did what Double Exposure unfortunately did not do, and that is actually commit to one of the endings of the original game. Where Double Exposure tried to tried to cater to both endings and actually ended up pleasing neither side. The comics here firmly picked an ending. In this case, the Destroy the Arcadia Bay ending. So where Max and Chloe leave town after Arcadia Bay gets destroyed by the tornado, and then picking, like the trailer said, picking up 1 year after those events. So already you already establish a firm foundation instead of trying to multitask and divide your attention too much in trying to make your narrative fit both endings no matter what the player chose. So right out the gate, the comics already succeed over Double Exposure. So, because Double Exposure already had shaky ground when, by trying to how the developers put it in all the interviews and promotion that they did for Double Exposure, was honor both endings. Instead of doing that, you should have crafted your story off of one of the endings and use that as a foundation. So that way everything made more sense and there wasn't like so many like inconsistencies between things that happened and how certain characters act. So but yeah, so right out the gate, this is the Emma already did a firm a good start into immediately telling the audience, this is the ending we're picking and this is what we're going off of. So very very important. Like, not beating around the bush, immediately being like, this is the version of the world that we're going with for this story. If you like it, then join. You can join the ride, or if you don't like it, hopefully you can give the story a chance, and maybe we'll be able to win you over uh, the story will win you over. So, a good way of going about it. And uh, be right be right back. Since we're going with the Chloe ending. Hold on. I think this shirt is more appropriate for me to be wearing and reviewing these the comics here. uh, so with that, we'll start with the the first issue. I mean, not first issue. The first trade, which what did they call the trade? Dust. There you go. Also, I do have the entire comic series right here, physically with me, because it comes with all 6 books inside these this hardcover bundles. So but I will be using my review, well my read along of the comic books as a refresher for this. Uh, so where's the here it is. It's right here. Let me move this over here so that way I don't have to go too far. So yeah. So this was obviously the cover. Eventually halfway through the the comic run, they changed. They kind of gave the comic series the subtitle Partners in Time, which is primarily what I would like that I would like to call the main comic series, because calling the original game Just Life is Strange and then having a comic series just also called Life is Strange almost makes it come off more as the comics are like retelling the game, but in actuality the comics are a sequel to the game. So it's like, so calling it Partners in Time is a better way to differentiate the game and the comics more. So yeah, so in any event, we got we got that, and then let's see, and yeah, see, this was the cause to further how much of a sequel the comics are to the game. we immediately have a previously on segment that uses screenshots of the original game and a brief description of choosing, what choice you made at the end of the game and what happened afterwards and stuff. And, you know, segueing, see, when they leave Arcadia Bay and whatnot. So, that's all well and good, see? So, with that, we do. How is it? Where did we? Okay, here we go. So we go to chapter 1 of the first book. We begin with this. We will come to find out later that this is because this is a shot of Max sitting down, kind of monologuing to herself, and which I do like that the border around her is like filled with blue butterflies, but that this is kind of a flash forward, because we're pretty much going to be catching up to where this scene takes place later in the story. So for right now, it's almost like this is like a framing device that's used to kind of make it seem like Max is kind of narrating the first part of what we're about, of this part of the story. She's not going to do this throughout the whole story. It's just for this opening little part of the story for this book. This is what Max does. So thankfully she doesn't do this throughout the whole story because of the entire run of the comics, because if she did that, then any drama and everything that you could happen with Max would not have any weight or anything to it, because we know she's narrating. So it's like, okay, so she has to live, or she has to get away from this situation. Like, overall, this situation like works out for her because we see her in the narrating here, so she has to be around. But yeah, they resolved this pretty well enough that they don't do it for the rest of the thing, for the run. Also, the comics and Double Exposure don't take place in the same universe. Because if you've read the comics before Double Exposure came out, because the main reason this main series of comics ended is because Double Exposure was already being made and was already becoming a thing. Because obviously the creatives of the comic book knew well before the general audience knew that Double Exposure was going to be bringing back Max and everything, and they were going to be using Max in the video games again. So Square Enix obviously did not want a comic with Max happening at the same exact time that a video game was being done. So pretty much the comics had to wrap up their story and bring it to a hopefully a satisfying enough conclusion. Because the ending isn't rushed. Like, it's very obvious that that the creatives here had enough uh, enough of a notice that they were given enough time to flesh out an end uh, to the comic. So it wasn't like Square Enix just came in and was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna end the comic like next month." Like it wasn't like, hurry up and wrap up your comic and we're ending it like ASAP. That's not how that worked. So thankfully they gave them enough of a grace period to be like, think about your ending and flesh it out and then finish the run, the run off. So so there's that. Also, there's going to be, fair warning, there's going to be a lot of comparisons between Double Exposure and the comic series. Not just because on face value they're both conceptually are sequels to the original video game, but there's a lot of things that Double Exposure did that the comics did. But the main difference is how each of them executed those similar plot points and plot beats. So there's going to be a lot of comparing both, because it's very hard not to. Very, very, very hard not to. Um, Especially if you've played and read both. It's because I read this entire comic book run. I read before Double Exposure came out. So when I was playing Double Exposure, there was a lot of stuff screaming at me that, oh, this is like the comics. This is like the comics. This is like the comics. There's a lot of that. So, plus there was several things in the Double Exposure when we were ranking those episodes, those chapters, that I didn't entirely go into too much detail of, because there were certain things that the comic did. So I didn't want to get into the whole spoiling the comics before we actually talked about them and placed them on the tier list. So yeah. So in any event, Max does this thing. We see that there's also kind of a storm going on, and you see like little raindrops and stuff. And also Max's nose is bleeding, so clearly she's straining her powers for some reason. Um, so now we pick up at this bar. Um, and we, well, not bar, more like a cafe or something or whatnot. And we pick up with Max and Max's new group of friends, which we learn are part of a band, and you see the leader of the band here wearing wearing the name of the band on a T-shirt called the High Seas. With the overall theming of the band is kind of ironically, a pirate theme. Because if you remember, Max and Chloe liked when they were younger playing pirates and stuff. So it's kind of funny that they end up being friends with a little this tiny little indie band that's pirate themed. So that's pretty funny. Let me see. Do I remember all of the band names? Because it's a 4-person band. She's the leader, and then we have these two guys here, and then we have this girl here. She's the only one that I know her name off the top of my head. Pixie. Who's the other two? Now I gotta whoop out the comics, the physical comics, cause the later books actually have a character breakdown in the front pages of the comic before you start reading the main story. Oh. Come on, where are you? Is it this chapter? It's probably book 3. Come on. Oh my god, is it book 4? Yeah, there you go. Okay, so it is book 4. So book 4 does have the character list breakdown here. Okay, so we got. Okay, I knew that was her name. I just wasn't too sure. The leader of the band of the High Seas. Her name is Tammy. So this is Tammy. I knew both of these guys' names started with fucking D's. So this is Dex. The pink-haired guy is Dex. And this guy over here with the glasses, that is Dwight. And as I said before, this is Pixie. So all of them are make up the High Seas band. All right, I'm gonna put this comic book to the side just in case I need it later. There we go. So, so yeah, so these are Max's new friends that they made during their in the 1 year apart. They over here. Here's a funny little thing where Pixie kind of makes a funny remark to Max about it's almost like Max has powers, which is funny because Max keeps the fact that she has powers like hidden. So still the only person that knows Max has powers is Chloe. Chloe's the only one that knows. And obviously Chloe doesn't say anything. And Max is pretty much uh, pretty much like the band's photographer. So when the high seas do gigs and stuff, they Max does some photos for them. So she's pretty much showing them, the photos that came out after after their gigs. So they're all commenting on how that is. Uh, and she's still using Polaroid pictures, as you can see. So Max here hasn't upgraded to digital. And then we got they're referencing because they're saying hopefully they're not Chloe isn't watching the TV, and what's on the TV is before they show it because they're gonna cut to Chloe instead for a minute, but it's pretty much a anniversary announcement of the 1 year mark of Arcadia Bay getting wiped out. So pretty much like saying like hopefully she's not watching the TV, which is going to be reminding them of the events of the original game. Which also they're in Seattle right now. So presumably, pretty much Max and Chloe went to Seattle probably to check in with Max's parents, because in the original game, Max moved to Seattle when she was younger, before when Willie moved when William died, or pretty much after William died, and which was Chloe's dad, and in the original game she just came back to Arcadia Bay to go to Blackwell for school. So she was coming back from Seattle. So it's pretty reasonable that Max and Chloe were probably because they don't ever say it here throughout the comics, which would have been nice to know, but but you can kind of figure it out if you think about it. Is they probably just stood with with Max's parents for a while, like after they explained to them and most likely heard on the news about the whole Arcadia Bay storm thing. So yeah, so firmly establishing this, and then we have what was it? This nice shot of Chloe where is she? Oh, there she is. There she is. Also, a little tidbit that I'll say right now is if you played uh Before the Storm remastered, the remastered version of Before the Storm, one of Chloe's costumes that they added as a I think it was a pre-order bonus, but you could download it separately later. I think you could download it for like a couple of dollars or something. I forget how much they were asking for it later, but uh, this T-shirt with the zombie coming out of the grave, with the zombie hand coming out of the grave, the ground or whatnot. They added this outfit in Before the Storm remaster as a outfit that Chloe can change into. So it's really funny that in the remastered version of Before the Storm that they retroactively put in a reference to the comic books, uh, which I love. Like, I love that they fully put in a comic book reference. And I believe it's the only comic book reference that has been in the video games. Because, as I said before, even though Double Exposure uses a lot of plot elements from the comic series, it's not like a one-to-one direct reference. So, yet again, how they both execute the same plot element is different. So, but yeah, so we cut to Chloe. She's listening to the radio, looking at a note. We find out later what that note is, and now this is the little news report here, because you see the little thing with Nathan and whatnot, and then eventually Chloe comes walking into the room and turn off the TV because it's like, okay, who wants to listen to that depressing stuff? And the note that that Chloe was listening to, well, not listening to, but the note that Chloe had in her hand outside, which she has to talk to Max about it in private, and it's kind of ironic that they go to the bathroom to talk about it in private, which even Chloe references the irony about going to the bathroom to feel safe. But yeah, the note is a invite to the memorial service that they're having at Arcadia Bay, because they are rebuilding the town. They're in the process of rebuilding the town, which also Double Exposure did say that the town was rebuilt within the almost 10 years since the events of the original game. Double Exposure did mention offhandedly to the side that Arcadia Bay did get rebuilt. So in this case, they're in the process of rebuilding it, because in the news broadcast they showed like little bits of footage of them in Arcadia Bay and construction work and stuff going on. And um and Chloe is just mad that that the news broadcast is sugarcoating and hiding the big details of what happened in the first game, because uh they're treating the Prescott family, obviously Nathan, that Nathan was just like a pure victim and everything, and it's like, no, he was a victim, but you're glossing over the fact that he was also a willing participant for a majority of the stuff that was happening. So Chloe is obviously mad about that. I believe they didn't mention like Jefferson or anything that's happening there, which is obvious because Jefferson was using money from the Prescotts because he was using Nathan for the money, so that's how he built the whole dark room and got the drugs and everything, so he can do what he was doing to the girls. So there's that. And obviously, Nathan's dad, Sean, doesn't want the overwhelmingly negative PR that all of that would bring. So it's obvious that they're extremely suppressing like all of those details. And obviously that's why Chloe is really pissed. And they're pretty much also debating on whether they should go to the memorial service or not, on what they should do. So as they're hashing that out, Max starts having oh no, she started having like a little headache, and as we all know from the original game, when Max starts having like migraines and stuff, that's a sign that something is happening, or something's about to happen. So there was a little hint of that when you read the comic books, and if you're paying attention to the visuals, you will kind of catch on to certain things that are weird things that are happening. Like Claudia really uses art, the artwork and the backgrounds and everything to kind of play with things that are happening in relation to Max and her powers and stuff. Because obviously this isn't a video game, so you have to get more creative on how you're going to show the reader without like blatantly expositing to them like what is happening. At least you'll explain it to them later, but you want to like drop little hints and stuff where you could figure it out before the story starts telling you. But yeah, so the High Seas got a little gig, a little gig that they're doing later, and Max and Chloe are gonna be going, and they're going to it dressed up as pirates, obviously. So we're gonna fit with the theme, and obviously, you know, Chloe is, you know, they're both still coming to terms with what happened in Arcadia Bay, because 1 year is not enough to to fully like process everything that happened, especially if you're avoiding it and you're not actively like talking about it and stuff and dealing with it. So yeah, as because here's another one of the physical like differences of catching on to what's happening. So you see Chloe here, right? And then when I move up a little bit, when I move up a little bit, you see Chloe here, right? Doesn't she look different? So, and then now she's back to this, and Max is looking in the opposite direction of where Chloe was in the previous scene, and then now Chloe is looking different, and she's behind Max now. So after Chloe is trying to figure out what the fuck is going on, Max is confused at what's going on. They go into the party because Max is kind of in denial about what's going on. Like, she clearly can notice that something weird is happening. So what's going on, YouTube? But yeah, so they go into the party. They're trying to enjoy the party while she's singing. Meanwhile, Chloe like just up and disappears, and Max has no idea where she is. And then Chloe finally pops in, and now it's at this point that Chloe is now being like, okay, something clearly is happening with you, and we need to figure it the fuck out of what's happening. So it's at this point that Chloe's like, all right, if you're not gonna make the decision, Max, then I'm going to make the decision for you, and that is that they're going to go back to Arcadia Bay, because Chloe's like, whatever you're feeling, I'm pretty sure if we go back to where it started, to where you first got your powers and all that stuff, that maybe we could figure out what's going on with you. So we're going to Arcadia Bay. So now we get into chapter 2. And in chapter 2 we continue the narration here from Max on the hill still, because the first couple of chapters, start this way, and then now we open up with Chloe and Max driving to Arcadia Bay in Chloe's same beat up pickup truck that she has. So they're still using the same pickup truck. The pickup truck kind of breaks down. You have a nice little cute scene with them. Chloe telling Max, joking about Max using her powers, and then immediately telling Max, I don't mean that seriously. Don't use your powers. So Chloe is being very adamant very upfront about Max not using her powers because of what happened, about what happened in the original game, which makes sense because Max doesn't want to use her powers. Chloe is reinforcing that and is making sure that she doesn't use her powers. So there you go. Which is a complete contrast to Chloe in Double Exposure being paranoid about Max using her powers and not having an actual conversation about it, apparently. So yeah. So here it's firmly established that uh, Max hasn't used her powers since Arcadia Bay, and Chloe does not want her to. Um, so they get back to Arcadia Bay, which is coming along pretty nicely within 1 year. Ooh, excuse me. The big Nathan Prescott Foundation is like, oh, look at that. To whitewash things even more, they name the restoration project and stuff like after Nathan and make him the poster child for this thing. So in any event, they wander through through the town, and then we get to what remains of the Two Whales Diner. So, which Chloe is comforting Max throughout this because even Chloe tells her, like, I knew doing this was gonna be hard. It was gonna be hard for both of us, but I was more worried that she was more worried about how hard it was gonna be on Max herself. So then we're at the Two Whales Diner. Um, and this is a point too. This is also a big difference is in the comics here. Chloe is very adamant for Max not to blame herself for everything that happened in the original game. Because Chloe is pretty much doesn't believe that Max caused the storm to happen in the first place. Because Max does believe that, but as I've said numerous times already, there is no concrete evidence 100% that the storm in the original game was caused by Max's powers to begin with. Because as I said before, Max gets a vision of the storm before she even unlocks and has powers in the game to begin with. So if the powers were connected to the storm directly, then why doesn't Max have a vision of the storm after she gets the powers? Why before? So, in any case, yet another difference between how Double Exposure portrayed Chloe, because they portrayed Chloe as harboring some resentment for Max choosing to destroy the town, which in the end of the original game and the audio clips that Double Exposure uses for its audio flashback sequences Chloe was fully supporting whatever decision Max chooses. Because she said in the original game that Max was the only one that could make the decision, and it was up to her to do so. So, and that she was gonna support her no matter what decision she makes. And this is in contrast to Double Exposure, where Max says that Chloe never looked at her the same when Chloe found out that Joyce was one of the people that died in the storm. Even though in the original game, Chloe fully knows that Joyce dying was gonna be a possibility if Max doesn't go back. So another big difference here. Plus, it's also weird that Double Exposure kind of makes Chloe seem resentful and stuff. But later, if you're reading her Instagram posts and stuff that come up throughout the game, Chloe seems relatively happy and stuff, especially in the conversations that she's having with Victoria. She seems happy enough, so it's like she doesn't seem that resentful. Like, you almost made it seem like she was gonna go through like a major emo phase or something, that she was gonna be depressed, but it's like, no, she seems happy, so it's kind of mixed signals on that one. But at least here, they're firmly establishing Chloe's attitude and how she is treating Max here, and how their relationship has gone within that almost 1 year time skip. So in any event, they go into the diner, which, how Max sees it, because this is how Max is seeing the diner. And for some reason, the diner is fully built. It's not destroyed. It looks fine. Chloe obviously is not seeing this, because Chloe's like questioning what's going on, that Max is acting weird. And we have our first cameo of the comic book. Because another thing that was firmly, because Emma has said this in interviews and stuff when she's been to like several conventions and stuff, and has done like panels and stuff, and has talked about the comic books and stuff, that Square Enix gave her certain restrictions on certain characters from the games that she could and couldn't use. So there were certain characters that she wanted to use, but Square Enix denied her to use them. There are some that are very disappointing. One of them that I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off now is, well, not Band-Aid, but that I'm gonna address now is Nathan. Because Emma did say that she had an idea to use Nathan in the comic books, that she was gonna use him to do something. But since Square Enix denied that they were gonna use him, that they were gonna let her use him, then she couldn't do it. Also, there were restrictions on certain characters that she couldn't use. But then, as the comic books went on, Square Enix got more looser on lifting certain restrictions on some characters. So as the comic books went on, Emma was able to write in some other characters that she wanted to use but couldn't use before. And then when the opportunity came later, where it was like, oh, I could use these characters now, then she organically, very organically, put them in. So, obviously, some of those characters that had more restrictions on them were way more important characters. So, so for this cameo here, it's one of the side characters, and it is, oh, is it Dana? I believe, because Dana was the one that had the abortion, right? I believe that was Dana, the one that had the abortion. But in this situation, she has a stroller and she has a baby clearly. So here, she didn't have an abortion and she actually did have a baby. So, and here's an example of what Chloe is seeing. So while Max is seeing Dana, Chloe is still seeing the regular world where the diner is obviously all destroyed still. That they haven't gotten to this part of to restoring this part of town yet. So also, if you notice in Max's little vision that they're having, and yes, it was Dana. Thank you, Max, for confirming that was Dana. She has her own vision of Chloe that's also with her in this reality. But obviously, this Chloe isn't saying anything, so it looks like it's just a placeholder that's just there. So yeah. So we got that going on. Then Max, and then Chloe grabs Max's hand, and then when she grabs Max's hand, this is when Chloe is able to see what Max is seeing. So physical contact makes the other person see what Max is seeing. So now Chloe can see Dana and everything that's happening right here. And as you can see, other Chloe that was next to her is now replaced with regular Chloe here. So yet again, the other Chloe was like a placeholder. Hence why that other Chloe wasn't talking. She was just standing there smiling. And then we get a little, well, I say voice cameo, but obviously this is a comic book, so there's no real voices coming out of this. But for the sake of argument here, a voice cameo of Joyce, because Dana mentions Joyce. So in this reality, Joyce is still alive. So, and then it's at that point that the reality just disappears before you're able to see Joyce. So yeah, so now Max is having, for whatever reason, she's able to see different realities. Obviously, they get found out in the diner and get escorted out, obviously by the workers and stuff. And then Chloe is obviously really fucked up about what's happening. So she's like, you know what? It's time we confront. It's time that I confront my own stuff too while I'm here. And then they go back to Chloe's house. So they go back to Chloe's house so Chloe can also get some closure on stuff here. And then now Chloe starts, Max sees a reality here with Joyce. Now, this specific reality is the other ending of the original game of if Chloe's dead. Because Joyce is here looking through, I believe, the photo album. So she's looking through pictures of Chloe and stuff. Also, for whatever reason here, Chloe can't see the what's happening here. So even though she has oh, and there's a newspaper clipping of Nathan shooting Chloe. And also, yeah, it's just all Chloe stuff. I thought one of these would have been like a newspaper clipping of like Kate or Rachel or something, but no, it's just all Chloe stuff. Also, because you can see here that even though Chloe was touching Max's hand, she still couldn't see all of Joyce and all of this happening. So in this event, anyway, Chloe, since Chloe can't see this, she pretty much tells Max to, at the very least, tell her mother that she loves her and everything. So pretty much giving Chloe, because the purpose of this scene is pretty much to give Chloe closure with her mother being dead. So this is giving Chloe that closure, so Max is able to give her that. None of this is working because now Max passes out because she has a big nosebleed with all this timeline jumping that she's doing. We cut back to the high seas because they're waiting for Chloe and Max to come back. And they also decide to go to Arcadia Bay to meet up with them. So that's pretty much how that goes. So they're gonna go to Arcadia Bay to meet up with them. To help support them for the memorial service, because that's how good of friends the high seas are with Max and Chloe at this point. So that's nice that they're gonna do that. And Chloe obviously dragging Max up to her room, what remains of her room, and waiting for Max to wake up. Because at this point, Chloe is kind of like, I already have experience with what happens here, so I already am kind of used to what to how this works. So Max eventually wakes up. Hey, a blue bird. Hey, referencing those the birds from the first game where you can save some that constantly gets trapped in Chloe's house for whatever reason. So now Chloe and Max end up going to Blackwell now. So now they're at Blackwell. because they're still trying to figure out why Max is jumping into these different realities, well, these different timelines. So they go back to arcade. So they're trying to see what's triggering it. So they're going to these different important locations to see if being here kind of unlocks something to happen. So now here we get another cameo. We get Warren when we jump into another reality, and in this reality, Chloe is dead again, and the uh, and this is the Chloe dead timeline because Warren's still alive. Do 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 do. Yeah, Chloe's obviously not seeing any of this. She grabs Max's hand again. Um, and this time it doesn't. It also doesn't work again because Warren doesn't see her. Chloe is getting a massive headache. Um, so whatever's happening is strongly affecting Chloe uh, more because she's not. Because it hurts her. It doesn't seem like it's hurting Max. It seems like it's all uh, getting funneled into Chloe instead. So he jumped back, and this time they jump into another reality, and in this one we get another cameo, probably one of the more important cameos that we get, and that is obviously Rachel. Hey. So we get Rachel here, and this is for the first time in any of the Life is Strange stuff. We get Rachel, Chloe, and Max together and interacting, all three of them interacting and talking with each other. So in this reality, Rachel is still alive. Um, she's showing them a newspaper that well, she says photography teacher, but we from that description we could pretty much figure out she's talking about Jefferson. That Jefferson was arrested for what was it? Stealing supplies. Oh, and apparently sleeping with one of the students. so, yeah. So, and Rachel pretty much saying that she kind of had a bad feeling about him. So, girl, you do not know the half of it. Y'all dodged the only bullet on that one. But yeah. Oh yeah, we also get a three-way joke here because uh she references that Rachel and Chloe are in this reality are still supposed to be in a relationship. So she mentions that like weren't we supposed to have like a date later, and then she mentions She mentions it right here. Unless we're taking this three-way, which she's referencing that because of Chloe and Max haven't realized that they're still holding hands. So Rachel is just teasing them over it. But it's also funny to know that Rachel is not. Apparently, that means she's not opposed to sharing. Apparently, so that's funny. Um, and then she goes over to show the newspaper to another student. I believe it's Juliet, because she mentions Watson, and I believe Juliet, her last name was also Watson, so another little reference to another character. And then that's where the split happens again. So the reality disappears again. The fact they know that they're not switching, and this is also confirmation since they're both wearing watches. They're both obviously set to the same time. When these jumps in timelines are happening, they're not going back or forth or anything in time because nothing in the watches are changing. So it's pretty much confirming that they're just jumping to other realities at the same place and at the same time. So it's pretty much kind of, this is what double exposure kind of would use for Max's traveling between two timelines thing in double exposure, is pretty much using this element here with these timeline jumps that are happening. Like, Max isn't doing this. This is happening randomly. Like, she's having no control over this. So double exposure would take this and pretty much make it an actual like power that Max can use freely. So there's that. So now they know that that nobody's going back in time, forward in time, or anything. That everything is happening at the exact same time, in the same place, but in different timelines that they're seeing. So now we get a little time jumpy here, where time is manipulated. Chloe is sleeping. I mean, Max is like kind of sleeps after, takes a little nap as Chloe takes a minute to take a walk. And then Max gets woken up by Warren again. And this is where Warren kind of gives an update, cause in this reality with Warren, Max and Warren are together, and Warren tells Max that his version of Max that he's with has that they've figured out for the most part what's going on with her powers, the jumps and stuff that she's experiencing, and they call them flickers, right? There you go. Yeah. So now we have a name for them, that these time jumps that she's happening are flickers, which makes sense because a flicker is kind of like a split moment, like a small little moment, And that's pretty much what Max has been experiencing. She's experiencing these tiny little pieces of different timelines, different moments in different timelines. So now and he pretty much says it's getting worse because it was only tiny little instances. Now it's becoming bigger jumps, and the time you're spending in another timeline is becoming longer. So it's getting worse. And then now we have a little tease at different timelines here. Because Max is seeing these are almost like doorways to different timelines, different realities, and this is what she's seeing. So she's kind of having a vision of like this nexus that all these different timelines connect to, and where you can go into different ones. So it's kind of visualizing the whole like how in the original game where Max would make changes to a timeline, and then you would have like this little montage of the timeline changing. It's kind of another visualization of that, except it's like, here's these different doorways to the different timelines, and you could go into these. So that's pretty much how that works. Because you have this timeline with Chloe and Rachel, which in retrospect, this is going to be funny. The fact that Chloe and Rachel are on a beach here, this is actually going to be pretty funny by the end of this here. And then we have this timeline where Victoria and Max are apparently really good friends, which is also a callback to the end of episode 5 of the original game. No, of episode 4. No, the end of episode 3 of the original game, when you go into wheelchair Chloe's timeline. When you're in wheelchair Chloe's timeline, and apparently you get a little hint that Max and Victoria are friends a little bit. So there's a little callback to that. So you get a little visual cameo of Victoria. And then you have, obviously, Chloe and Rachel together. And then right when she's about to touch that reality, she wakes up and she's in the back of Chloe's pickup truck. And now they know... So now, pretty much Max is kind of briefing Chloe on what's happened. And now they're coming up with a plan. Oh yeah, now they're seeing this, well, they're both seeing this gravestone of Max's. So now they're seeing a glimpse of a dark reality, which, as you can see from the date, it's like a possibility that maybe in this timeline Max went with William for some reason, and obviously they both died in the car accident apparently. So that's a pretty dark reality. And now the flickers and stuff, because like Warren explained, is that Max is being pulled into these different timelines, and the longer that she's staying in these timelines, it's like she's being yoinked into being a part of those timelines. So hence this fuzzy little outline that's going on here is because she's kind of like fading in and out and is being pulled into the timeline. So pretty much what they come up with, uh, she pretty much like deduces that it's like the different versions of Max or of in the different timelines are trying to pull each other back to their realities. And since this Max is kind of like, well, this is like the OG Max for us, and it's kind of like a Nexus thing, she's kind of like magnetizing to the different ones. That's why she literally says here that maybe there's a Max who's meant to be here, and she wants back into her universe, which is why this Max is being like pulled. So, not really. Well, we'll come to find out later that that's her hypothesis is not really true, but the fact of her being pulled out of this this timeline for one is a thing that's happening because she is being pulled out of here. And see, now we're back to the beginning of the comic here, where she was sitting down with the butterflies all around her doing the monologue, and now we're caught up now. So now we're caught up to that, and then now we're like, that they have to do something, and it's a little memorial that Arcadia Bay memorial thing that they're doing, but so they're back at Blackwell. And Chloe pretty much tells her that the reason why she's feeling all this pain and they're experiencing all this pain is because she's resisting the pull. So since she's resisting it so much, that's why this pain and stuff is happening. So clearly she has to go with it. And then they give a. Do they show it here? Yeah, they do. Okay. So they give a goodbye, pretty much like a goodbye kiss, kind of like in the save the town ending, which is the only ending you get where Chloe and Max genuinely could get a actual kiss at the end. Sadly, the High Seas finally make it. So now they're in at Arcadia Bay. They're all dressed up for it to support Chloe and Max. Everybody's gathering for the memorial service. Chloe and Max are here, so Max is still here. They kind of Chloe pretty much telling her what door is she gonna choose, like what reality is she choosing to jump into. And Max pretty much feeling that she's about to disappear. And you could see her already like starting to fade out here. Chloe gets a text message from the High Seas telling her that she's here. So Max disappears, and then now she's inside this Nexus. So now it's here where she's gonna see what reality she's gonna jump into. And she's pretty much talking about it like there's other, like, what possibilities are there. Uh, there's some scenes from these are obviously scenes from the comic book so far. Uh, and then we have this reality behind her here because you see Max and Chloe Max and Rachel, I'm sorry, reading a book here. So that's obviously a different reality. And then from there, Max makes her decision, her tearful decision of where she's leaping to. So she leaps into another reality, and what reality is she choosing? She's letting the pull, whatever reality she's getting pulled to that she's been resisting is where she's letting it take her. And what reality is that? Is this one. This is why I said the little sneaky hint earlier in the Nexus of showing Rachel and Chloe sitting on the beach was gonna be funny, because this is how this chapter, not this chapter, but this first book ends here, with Max jumping into a reality where Rachel and Chloe are together, and Rachel, more importantly, is not dead. Because if you when you remember, too, is like they showed with the watches. There's no actual time being rewound or full being manipulated here. These events are happening at the same exact time. So you can't see it because it's hard to see, but it shows the location and the date. Let me see. I gotta whoop out the comic books again. Okay, there you go. Because it says Santa Monica Beach in LA, and it says 2014. So, at the same exact time that Max jumped into another timeline, this is what's happening at the same exact time. Is Chloe and Rachel being in LA, being in California. Which, if you remember, that's where Rachel wanted to, where Rachel and Chloe were going to run away to. Where they decided they were going to go. They were going to go to California. That's where they wanted to go. Because Chloe mentions that in the original game and everything. And that's also one of the choices that you could make in Before the Storm when they start talking about wanting to leave town. But in this reality, clearly, they did leave town. So this reality is... So this reality is clearly a what if Chloe and Rachel actually left Arcadia Bay after the events of Before the Storm. Because Because we'll learn later in the following book, I believe we do learn later that that Rachel does talk about does mention that her father had like a dark secret that destroyed their family. So pretty much confirming that the events of Before the Storm did happen in this reality, and that that Chloe told Rachel the truth is what is the ending that they go with. Uh, and that was pretty much enough for Rachel to actually like make sure that they leave. So that's pretty much like the dividing line there is that happened. Uh, so that's pretty interesting here. Also, a funny little thing is that book one ends with the caption on the bottom of this action will have consequences. Which is funny because every time you made a major decision in the original Life is Strange game, that was the quote that you were constantly told was this action will have consequences every time you made a big decision. So the game was always taunting you. So it's kind of funny that they did add it here. Um, but yeah, but another funny little tidbit though is is the uh is this wasn't the original. I don't believe Emma has actually stated like what the original ending was supposed to be. The original ending that she had in mind, but um, this original comic series was only gonna be these initial 4 issues. So technically, it was only supposed to be this one book, like this tiny little mini series. It was only supposed to be this short, but pre-orders and sales for the first issue were way above what Square Enix anticipated there would be. That Square Enix decided to to have Emma switch gears and make this an ongoing series until further notice. So pretty much just keep the thing going until we decide to pretty much finish it at this point. so so what initially was supposed to be a small little mini series turned into this what was it 4 year uh this like 4 year journey of a comic book run. So pretty amazing turnout. Like when like you can say what you want, but when Life is Strange fans come out to support something, they severely come out and support it. Because I guarantee you, without the fans, there wouldn't be anything past those initial like 4 issues. I'm sure. When I'm I could probably figure out what the original ending probably was supposed to be. Judging from what the previous issues, because I'm pretty sure the first couple of the issues were going to be the same. Because obviously the first issue was already written, illustrated, and was done. So when they were going to change gears they most likely started changing the ending probably when they were maybe starting to write and draw maybe issue 3. I would assume maybe in issue 3 is where the wheels started turning into changing the ending into more of a to be continued rather than a full-on conclusion. Because what most likely was probably going to happen is we were going to get all the closure, right? With resolving any guilt and everything from the end of the original game. And most likely Chloe and Max and the High Seas were pretty much just going to be maybe enjoy the memorial service in a more bittersweet but emotionally resolved like uh end. Like that was pretty much, I believe, what was going to be the ending. But then obviously we switched gears and changed the probably what was going to happen with the whole Max being pulled into a different reality, a different timeline, and all that stuff. That's probably where that got changed, because most likely that probably wasn't gonna be what the issue turned out to be. It was probably gonna be a different problem that was being had, and the resolution was going to be different. But now, since Square Enix was like, oh, this made way more money than we thought it was going to be, so let's just keep it going instead of just ending it like right here, real soon. So let's just keep it going. Which I am glad that they kept it going, because the rest of the comic book goes in a lot of interesting directions. And it would have been a shame that we never got the rest of this. So with that, I will give where's here we go. Here's book 1. I will give book 1 of the comic series. I will give it I don't want to give it I'm not going to give it an S tier, because there's one book definitely that I'm thinking of that's going to be an S tier at the very least. And I want to save it for that, because there's certain moments in the other books that are really, really, really good. So I don't want to put the first book in S tier. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I'm gonna put it here in A tier mainly because of my knowledge of where the rest of the comic book goes, especially with the ending of Max being now fully in a timeline where Rachel and Chloe are together. I have to put it below. I have to put it below, at the very least, Before the Storm, only because where they're gonna take Chloe and Rachel's relationship in the rest of the comics, from this point in of the comics onward, is gonna be built entirely off of how their relationship was in Before the Storm. So because Before the Storm is the blueprint of their relationship that they're going to follow, I have to put it at the very least, at least below that. Where they take that relationship and do they make it better or just as good as Before the Storm and maybe propel it even up above into S tier remains to be seen. And also, it's not just Max and Chloe's. I mean, it's not just Rachel and Chloe's relationship. It's the added element of Max being around that relationship now, and what they could do with that, and more importantly, what they don't do with that. But yeah, so that's why I put it there. So that's pretty much how that goes. So as you can see, A tier is really big. A tier is really big. Like this is filling out very well. By the way, but yeah, what can I say, man? It just does. It just set, and it also goes with the trend, with the overall trend that of the series, that at the very beginning that they set up, at least the beginning of it is set up pretty strong for the most part with any of these for the most part with the games, and here with the comic book, which also follows the trend that they put that they set themselves up very strong. Um, we get not just returning characters, we also introduce new characters because we introduced the High Seas, and clearly the High Seas were clearly Emma wanted to make, like, not just use characters, pre-established characters that already exist. Clearly, she also wanted to make characters, her own characters, her own original characters to put in, to interact with the already established characters. And that's pretty much what the High Seas are. Is characters that Emma made to add to the rich character legacy of Life is Strange. And every one of these expanded universe Life is Strange projects, whether it's the comics here or the novels, also, because there are Life is Strange novels, and we will get to those, but not in this tier list. We'll get it in a tier list, in a separate category of the tier list later, but we're not doing it here because the novels don't make sense for this category because those novels are like about 30 chapters each. So what am I going to do? Separate 30 novel chapters and then rank those, which which wouldn't make sense either because some of those chapters are pretty quick and short, so it'd be like, what am I ranking? So we're not gonna talk about the novels until we get to the overall franchise tier list where we combine everything into one uh into one into when we combine all the individual pieces together and how do they all stack up as a whole. How does the entire picture uh how does the entire pictures rank amongst themselves? That's when we'll talk about the novels. But we're not going to talk about the novels here because this format wouldn't make sense for it. But don't and the novels count as an entirely separate thing that they do all together. So if you know, you know. But we'll address those later. We'll also technically kind of address the novels. We'll touch on the novels a little bit when we get to the character rankings. When we start ranking the characters, that's when we'll start getting into the novels a little bit. At least one of the novels in particular. But we'll talk about them when the appropriate time goes. So if anyone is asking, because I even mentioned it a while ago when I started this whole tier list thing and how it was gonna work. I mentioned the novels that long ago. So now that we're getting closer to the end here, I'm just saying what's gonna happen with the novels later down the line. But yeah, so that's how this goes, and yeah, so that's how that works, and that is how the end of this chapter goes. And the end of the books also has the different like cover arts and whatnot. The cover arts are actually really good. Some of them are actually based on the t-shirts Max and Chloe wears. Because this is obviously the iconic Jane Doe shirt. Chloe wears this shirt, I think, in episode 2 or 3. She wears it in one of the episodes. I forget which chapter. I know Max wears this in chapter 5. This shirt, because this is the shirt that she's wearing during the dark room, when she's in the dark room. Which is ironic because she's wearing a black shirt for the dark room. So, yay, dark color. And then we got little sketches and stuff from Claudia about Chloe and Max's designs for the comic book, which is really nice. Then we got the same thing for the High Seas. Since they're the only real original characters that are significant in any way. Because remember, they came up a couple of times throughout the first book, and they cut to them a couple of times. So clearly they're meant to be significant enough supporting characters. So from what we've seen of them and their interactions and stuff, they are they're fun enough characters. Just you know, it's the first book, so so you just have like a good enough baseline, but nothing extremely uh extremely out there for them yet. But yeah, the little bios of the characters, and that was the end. But and that was the back of the the back of the first book. But yeah, so I believe A rank is a good spot for book one. Uh, Fittingly called Dust, because you know pretty much that's pretty much what's left after the destruction of Arcadia Bay is just like dust in the wake of the tornado. But in any case, uh, where is the story gonna go from here? Aha, we will leave that for next time, because a lot of stuff is going to happen in the next. A lot of stuff is going to be set up, and a lot of things are going to be. The big overarching, because we're going to because they're going to establish the overarching storyline that's going to run through the rest of the for pretty much the rest of the comic book run. So that's pretty much what what's gonna happen. But yeah, so we'll leave that for next time. Cause pretty much explaining the history and the setup for the comic, for initially the comic and the background and where we are in the middle of this franchise, and also another key point, another reason why I left these comics for last is because there are certain moments within the comic book that will have some cameos from, at the very least, someone from Life is Strange 2. I'm not going to say where in the comic book that is, but because that character has a meaningful enough cameo in the comics, it wouldn't have made any sense to do the comics and then have to go into giant detail on, like, oh look, it's this character from this game and this is what they did in this game and all that stuff. This way I could just mention them and then you could go back and listen to what I say about them in that game, if you want better details on who they are for the most part and how significant they are and stuff like that. So there's that. So in any case, um, this is JR here signing off, and I will catch you all in the continuing adventures of Max and Chloe in the comics here. And I will catch you all in the next one. Later.